This is your captain speaking. We'd like to thank you for flying the richest airlines. Today we have a safety video which we'd like you to watch while we land at our destination. This will cover a range of tips which could, potentially, save your life in the event of an emergency. Air travel is very safe, but given I'm a narrator and not a real pilot, I think you should brush up on a few things. If you're having trouble getting the pre-flight movie to start, try pressing that red subscribe button. Then, activate the notification button. With that done, we'll get our trip started. Sit at the back. Those of you who have ever been on a commercial airliner know that the plane is divided up into classes. Right up at the front with all of the legroom and champagne you could dream of is first class. These seats are always at the front for a number of reasons. For instance, that area of the plane is quieter, gets jostled less by turbulence, and loads and unloads before everyone else. Yes, while the rest of us are packed in the back like cattle, the people up front are living the high life. In this instance, however, being part of the herd may actually pay off. You see, after doing a bunch of number crunching of survivability in a crash, researchers found that it is statistically safer at the back. In numbers, those sitting behind the wings have a 69% survival rate versus the 49% for first-class passengers. Now, this doesn't mean much in crashes where your plane hits a mountain or goes nose first into the sea. You're all goners then. Let's be real. However, overall, all crash incidents taken into consideration, the cattle, we mean economy section, gives you a bit higher chance of survivability. Use the oxygen. If you've ever flown on a passenger plane, then you've definitely heard the staff do their little spiel about depressurization and how to use the oxygen masks. That's because at cruising altitudes, if the cabin loses pressure, then you have seconds before the lack of oxygen starts shutting you down. Despite what you heard, the masks aren't meant to make you hallucinate, so you ignore your impending doom. Also, despite the rumors, there is enough oxygen in there for everyone to breathe while the pilots get the plane below 10,000 feet where the oxygen levels increase. So, why are we telling you such an obvious tip for survival? It's simple. First, most people hear the flight attendant's instructions, but fail to act properly when the moment of truth happens because they just panic. Second, and the most ridiculous, recently when the masks did drop on a United Airlines flight, passengers didn't put them on without being reminded. That's because they were too busy pulling out their phones to take videos and selfies of the event. It turns out people prefer to get an awesome pic for their social media feed than ensure that they are safe. Dummies. Oh, why hey there folks! Do you love watching our videos, but are you looking for a more ad-free browsing experience? Take your video viewing to the next level and sign up for the Premium Network. You'll get the first peek at the newest content from not only The Richest, but Screen Rant, The Taco, The Sportster, The Things, and many more. Thousands of your favorite videos in one place is a no-brainer. Click here to be the first in line for the Premium. Stay fit and stay dressed. If you're like us, then come summertime or winter break, the first thing you plan on doing is jetting off to some awesome holiday destination. Well, there are definitely some things you can do both before and during the flight to ensure your vacation will happen even if there's a survivable crash. First, do your best to be in shape. Yes, we know you're working on that six-pack or that sweet bikini body, but a little fitness can actually help you big time in a crash. The FAA apparently did all sorts of number crunching and found that survivability goes way up if you're thinner and more in shape. That's because you can move quickly and squeeze through tight places. If you're overweight and haven't done any sort of exercise recently, statistically your odds of getting out of a plane drop dramatically. Fitness aside, experts say to dress for survival. This doesn't mean wearing a helmet and pads. Instead, keep your shoes on, especially during takeoff and landing, because it will make escape a lot easier. Also, avoid synthetic fibers because they tend to melt and catch on fire easier than others. Sorry ladies, that means yoga pants are out if you want to help your chances. +3 - 8. Before you grab the calculators or start thinking, we're going to do something with math. Take a breath and relax. This next tip is pretty easy to follow and is a must according to many safety experts. Statistics have shown that most serious incidents involving a plane occur during takeoff and landing. This is just the time where the most stuff can go wrong and there's very little margin for error. Getting a little more specific, all the data suggests that the 3 minutes before takeoff and 8 minutes before landing are the most critical. A loss in engine power or failure in any of the control surfaces can lead to a dangerous situation and a potential crash. For this reason, aviation aviation experts say that during these two small windows of time, you should go over your escape plan in your head. Simply envisioning your escape route and going over the details of what the flight attendants told you in the briefing can be the difference between getting out quickly or wasting your precious time. After all, the last thing you want to do is survive the crash and then have to stop and think about what to do next. Don't limit your awareness. Everybody handles flying differently. Some people treat the whole thing as just a regular commute from point A to point B, while others can get overly anxious and excited about being stuck in a metal tube hurtling along at 36,000 feet. For this reason, passengers look to a number of distractions to pass the time. Perhaps a few drinks help take the edge off. Those headphones or earplugs you brought on might be the perfect way to drown out that crying baby. Or maybe a sleeping pill helps you get a few hours of sleep on a transatlantic flight. These are all great ways to help you relax on a plane. Unfortunately, they are also great ways to reduce your situational awareness or reflexes. If you want to help improve your chances of surviving an emergency, experts say to stay away from the alcohol. If you have to take a pill to sleep, wait until the plane has reached cruising altitude. Headphones and earplugs can cause you to miss important information over the PA system as well. This doesn't mean you can't do any of these. Just know that it can only hurt your odds. Alright, it's time for our quiz brought to you by the National Transportation Safety Board. After studying 2 decades worth of plane crashes, what does the NTSB say your odds of surviving a plane crash actually are? We'll tell you at the end of the video. Until then, keep watching, because these tips may just improve your odds. The 5-aisle rule. Earlier, we mentioned that the back of the plane had a bit of statistical advantage when it came to surviving an airplane incident. While various experts in the industry have never reached agreement on just how much that holds true, one area you can't really argue about is the safety of the aisle seats. Now, let's face it, aisle seats aren't as good as window seats, but they are better in a crash. Yes, if you're in an aisle seat, you have a higher chance of getting to an exit compared to your window seat neighbors. Bumping your survival odds up even more is the statistical evidence that suggests sitting within 5 aisles of an exit is even better. According to the research of Professor Ed Galea, passengers seated within 5 rows of an emergency exit were the most likely to escape with their lives in the event of a survivable crash. On the one hand, that's because you have to push your way through fewer people to reach safety. However, it also means less time and distance is spent fumbling through darkness and potential smoke. Snakes on a plane. We said we were here to give you tips which may increase your odds of surviving on a plane, and we meant it. Here's the scenario. You're cruising at 36,000 feet when you hear screams coming from behind you. Suddenly it becomes obvious. Someone has brought snakes on the plane and now they are free. Have no fear, because we have tips to help you out. First, see if Samuel L. Jackson is on your flight. This could really help the situation. If not, don't panic. Round up all the people you typically find in these scenarios in movies. The snarky drunk businessman, the panic-stricken nervous Nellie, the cocky jock, and the overbearing head cheerleader. If movies are anything to go by, they are goners anyway. Send them to the back of the plane, where they will become snake food. Filled with dinner, the snakes will be sleepy, and you can then take your time landing at the nearest airport. Problem solved. Of course, if reality is anything to go by, then incidents where snakes really have been on the plane are usually nothing to worry about. In one incident, the snake was simply sleeping, while in another, it appeared to be trying to hide. Avoid your inner sheep. When we watch any sort of movie or television show where an emergency takes place on a plane, passengers are often shown going out of control. If you ever find yourself in a survivable plane crash, statistically, the scene you would encounter is much different. Instead of a mass uncontrolled, panicked passengers, many survivors have reported that most passengers tend to sit in their seat, almost waiting to be told what to do next. In fact, in crashes where most people survived the initial impact only to lose their lives from smoke and fire, survivors reported that as they left the plane, many people were still calmly sitting in their seats just looking around. This has been termed negative panic, and it causes people to shut down and become unable to act unless directly instructed to do so. In 1977, 2 jets collided at an airport in the Canary Islands. In the end, 583 people lost their lives. Yet in interviews with 61 survivors, it became apparent that many passengers who didn't make it out that day survived the initial collision only to just sit in their seats while smoke and fire overcame them. The point here is that once your plane is stationary after an incident, you may need to act on your own if you find instructions aren't coming from the crew. 90 seconds. Speaking of acting quickly and taking the initiative, research has shown that, unsurprisingly, your window of survival following a crash is pretty small. That's because if a plane is crashed, then it's likely damaged to the point where a fire breaking out is a very real possibility. There's the other case, proven by the miracle on the Hudson, that since planes are not boats, their ability to float on water is finite. In either case, time is of the essence. So, how much time do you have? After crunching numbers and examining all sorts of incidents, the magic number is 90 seconds. That's the point beyond which a plane often becomes inescapable either because it's on fire, filled with toxic smoke, or under the water. Now, keep in mind, that's the maximum, and every situation is different. That means you could have a lot less time to navigate over luggage blocking the aisles, or a passenger who is busy trying to take their carry-on with them. It also further emphasizes our previous tips about knowing where the exits are and having a plan already in the back of your head should you need to use it. Brace for impact. Of course, all the escape plans and seating arrangements are meaningless if you don't make it through the actual crash in one piece. For this reason, airlines have devised procedures when it comes to how passengers should brace themselves. Don't believe the conspiracy theorists who think the brace techniques have been created to ensure passengers break their necks more quickly. Bracing is done for three main reasons. First, to limit the jackknife effect where your upper body flies forward. Second, to limit your forward momentum and striking forces against your head. Finally, to protect your legs and ankles so you can escape the plane. The typical position involves leaning forward so your head is tucked into your knees and your arms are wrapped around your legs. However, anyone who has flown in coach or economy knows there usually isn't any room to do this. As a result, you can place your hands on the seat in front of you and put your head against that while keeping your feet firmly planted on the floor. If you have a pillow or small bag with you, these can be used for extra cushioning for your head and a buffer between your legs and the seat in front of you. So, do you know what odds the NTSB gives you if you ever find yourself involved in a plane crash? The answer? 95.7%. That's an incredibly high chance of survival. Who knows? If you follow all these tips we've shown you today, you might very well beat those reassuring odds. Obviously, however, we hope that none of you ever have to find out. Well, folks, we've safely landed, and the most dangerous part of the flight is over. Of course, I still have to get this thing to the terminal. In the meantime, we'd like to tell you that The Richest has a bunch of other airplane-related info videos just for your viewing pleasure. From impossibly large planes to the secrets of airline staff, we've got the goods on pretty much everything in the sky. Now, in order to get that pesky seatbelt sign to go off, we'd ask you to please make sure you've hit the subscribe button. Once that's done, we'll wish you a good day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.